So, because of good old social media, we all heard about the Cecil the lion debate. And because of that, there was a lot of controversy that showed up because hunters are saying, this is like the best way to conserve, like we're conservationalists, like we're doing a great thing. While non-hunters, like myself and probably most of you guys, are like, well, I don't really know. Like, you see these pictures of these really like victorious guys next to a dead animal, and it's like, I don't know if that's right or not. And so today I want to talk about why I think trophy hunting should be illegal to everyone. And my uncle is actually a trophy hunter, sadly. He lives up in Oregon, and I'm actually going up there in like a month. And there's this one room in his house, his man cave, where you walk in and it's my nightmare. There's a zebra skin on the floor. There's animal heads all around the room, and they're just like staring at you. And there's like antelope heads, there's the zebra head, there's like a water buffalo, and all animals. And it's just something that I personally really just don't get. I don't understand why you take those creatures out of their environment, out of what they evolved to be able to do. And so think about it like this. We all, when we were younger, had medals or little achievements, and where are they now? They're in a garage for me or in a box or something. And that's the same thing that's gonna happen to these animals. Eventually, the man who killed it is gonna die, and I don't know if his kids are gonna wanna have like an animal head just sitting around. They're probably gonna wanna sell it. So to kill these animals and then not really have a use for it and just throw them away after time, I don't see how that's effective in any way. So, though trophy killing has a long history and avid supporters, the amount of destruction and exaggerated statements outweigh the benefits that it ever had, like way more. So today I'm going to give you a little bit of history about trophy hunting and why some people actually support it, and then I'm going to tell you about the myths that are told, and then the damage that it actually causes, and then how we and the government should be able to stop it. So let's first start out with the history. The years before World War I were called the golden age of trophy hunting. Now, in this time, a lot of Europeans, they were rich and they were bored. So they're like, let's go to Africa and start killing things. So they would go down there because they had the money, and they would pay locals and be like, hey, I want to kill that animal, will you take me out? And that's how it all started. And a big advocator in the US that got it really huge out here was Teddy Roosevelt. He did it more for the fact that he believed he was being a conservationalist. He thought the idea of trophy hunting to just keep the trophy was, as he said, absurd. And he actually went on a year-long spree in Africa where he killed about 512 animals. But once all the American men here found out about that, they're like, I have the money, I have the time, I can go do that. So therefore it got big down here. And ever since then, it's just been growing because people like it. U.S. Fish and Wildlife actually say that the money raised from the permits cause, they help conserve, because they give funding to the conservationists, and they help manage populations out there, so they're actually theoretically doing good. Game officials also say that they try and go for the weaker of the animals. They go for the animals that can't breed anymore, that they're getting sick, so that way they're not messing up the balance of the ecosystems. Dallas Safari Club, who they like trophy killing, auctioned off a black rhino permit with all the proceeds going to the conservationists. And their president states that by removing counterproductive individuals from a herd, the population can grow. Now, theoretically, all of this sounds pretty good. Like, oh, we're not doing anything bad. We're helping the populations. Money's going back to communities. It's fine. Melissa Simpson, director of Safari Club International Foundation, states that revenues from the expeditions generate contributions to local communities and wildlife resource agencies. So yet again, it all sounds pretty nice. However, a lot of what they're saying is completely exaggerated. Trophy hunting has an active history, and there are numerous people that truly believe the sport helps communities in conservation efforts. However, the myths that are told from these supporters are kind of like clouding most people's vision on the actual topic. And most people aren't able to see the actual damage that it's causing. So first, let's go to the myths. like I just said, they say that buying the permits will go back to the communities. Well, in reality, only 3% of the revenue goes back. And they make millions because one lion costs about $24,000 to $71,000 to kill. And they kill over like 6,000 lions a year. So there's a lot of money that's kind of just disappearing. It's not going back to the community, it's not going back to the conservation, it's more going to the people who are allowing the killings. And in African countries, it makes up only 0.27 of the GDP. So really, the money that's going back isn't really there. It's super exaggerated, so it seems like, oh, well, money goes back, so it's kind of iffy. And that was done by St. Anthony's College, University of Oxford. So, next, we're going to talk about the damage that it actually causes. Over 5 million square miles of land is used for hunting tourism. Now, this doesn't sound all bad because it sounds like they're going to keep the areas still really natural, they're just using it to hunt. However, when I went to the San Diego Wild Animal Park, I got in a truck, I got to go like feed animals. And while we were in the truck, they said, even if you drop the smallest piece of paper, tell us, because something that small can actually really affect the animals. And I think out there with the 5 million square miles of land, they're not going to be able to see that. They're not going to be able to make sure trash isn't being thrown by the people going. So therefore, it's hurting the animals even more. Now, the African Conservancy posted some statistics about the animals, and you're going to hear about those right now. So rhinos and elephants, those have been getting killed a lot more lately because in European medicine, they think that using the tusks or the horns and you grind them up, it's a medicine and it'll make you feel better. However, that's completely wrong. It's just not even true. There's nothing to support it. It's just kind of like a myth. And rhinos in like the 1970s, there were about 12 species still out in the wild. However, now there's only 5, and the numbers went from 10,000 to 2,000. Elephants, even worse. In 1930, there were 10 to 5 million elephants roaming around Africa. Now, only 1% of that exists, and that's about 600,000. And that's mostly because of the ivory, like I said, they're getting poached for their tusks. But a lot of it is also because of habitat loss and population's growth. Lions went from 50,000 to 10,000 in only a decade. And cheetahs, who were at 100,000, went to 10,000, with a tenth of that in captivity. And the saddest one, to me, is there are no giraffes living in the wild whatsoever. However, people still continue to kill giraffes, which completely mind blows me, because why are you out there killing animals when you should be helping them restore their population to the wild? So it doesn't make sense economically, biologically, or conservatively, and should not be an option in modern conservation. Because I believe it's morally wrong. That doesn't mean you guys shouldn't. And I also think that it's done out of wealth and boredom, and it's a lot of greed. And there's not a lot of regard for endangered species, because the rarer the better. The bigger the animal, the better. Because they say that, oh, we're not going to kill the biggest of them all. But what does a really good hunter want? They want the biggest. They want the coolest looking animal for their wall. And that just ruins the herds even more. Biologically, hunting undermines precautionary approach to wildlife management. Because hunters, like I said, are not natural predators, they don't follow the same rules of killing the weakest, even though they say they do, they don't. They kill the biggest and the best. So how governments and you can take action. Governments can take action that better reflect the conservation and animal welfare values by stopping trophy imports of critically endangered species like the black rhino and the threatened species. I don't know if you guys remember this, but in the beginning I talked about how this one lady said that they were auctioning off a black rhino. Well, those are super endangered, so I don't understand yet again how they say, oh, we're conserving these animals by killing them, when that animal's already endangered. You shouldn't be killing them, you should be helping the populations grow. And here's how you can take action. You can educate yourself and others, kind of like I'm doing now, but not in a speech. You can be more informed, so on social medias, if a ceaseful lion thing comes up, just read about it, just see like what's going on over there. You can petition if you want, but it's okay, you don't have to. And you can always donate. There are actual funds out there who actually support not killing these animals and who support not trophy killing. Because, like I said today, we learned about like the history and why some people support it, but then we learned about how the people who support it are actually not really telling us the truth about things, and then how it actually causes a lot of damage, but you also learned how you can help. Because I believe killing animals to save them is not conservation, it's just wrong.
All right, Celine, what did you think?
Well, I completely agree with you. I have a big animal heart, so I know, trust me. I think that you presented your speech very well. You gave a lot of eye contact. You looked prepared. You gave great statistics. And I think that, what was I missing? That you telling us about the people that are lying to us, like, and the people that are supporting it. You gave both sides of the argument, so I like that. And I just thought you were overall a good speaker today. Thanks.
All the delivery stuff is really solid. You do a good job speaking to us for the most part. Excellent eye contact. They're good gestures. I think your voice works effectively when you're speaking to us. At the beginning of the speech, I thought you had a nice reference to the recent social media event, identifying the topic pretty clearly. There's a good, and I like the personal story about your uncle's trophy room. I think that kind of sets up kind of a negative visualization to start off with. The idea of kind of listing what the arguments are that trophy hunters use as justification is fine. I think, and when you come back and you say you're going to debunk those things, I think that's a good strategy. But I do think that you need to give us a little bit more data on the debunking stuff, because you kind of make the assertion that they don't follow their own guidelines. Well, what do they want? They want the biggest ones. Well, yeah, they may want the biggest ones, but does that mean that they take the biggest ones? Is there some data that suggests that that's the case? That sort of thing. I did hear at one point a statistic that said that, like when you were talking about the money that was being raised, that only 3% goes back. And I think you finally gave a source that addressed that issue, but in the speech it was not very clear. And you also tried to diminish it by suggesting, as a part of the total GNP of those countries, that it's relatively small. I thought that was also good. And again, you want to make sure that the sources are a little bit clearer on that. I thought that you did a good job kind of creating the visualizations and the emotional issues that are going on, and creating some questions about the arguments that are being presented by the other side. I think you need to be a little bit stronger in making the argument that the other side is wrong on those points. And I think you kind of rely a little bit on those emotional appeals more often. But I thought that you did a good job making those emotional appeals, so I thought that it was pretty solid overall. All right, thank you.